Hello, I'm getting married in 2 weeks now. I have no words. I only have some crazy chaotic energy today because I have so much work to do on my wedding look. Thank you to everyone that's been journeying with me on this process. I have so much work to munch up today because it is certifiably crunch time and I'm going to devour this. Okay, update time on what I have accomplished since the last episode. My shoes arrived. I went with the yellow Cezannes. I know you guys were wondering what color did I pick. We went with pale yellow, and spoiler alert, I'm really pleased with them. I think they're adorable, they're exactly what I wanted, and hip hip hooray, they work. I maybe fell victim to these really cute Cezanne socks as well, but we're not going to talk about it. I needed them. Look, they're so me. In a moment of madness, I have accidentally started making another piece for my hen's night, which my sister informed me is like fairy garden themed, and I was like, how could you give me the most beautiful theme? I must dress frivolously. So I'm making this yellow puffy fairy tulle dress. In my head, the girl maths is, it's barely any extra work because if I just sew one tier of tulle on every single day, it will just get done in time. And it only takes me like one episode of a TV show to sew on a tier, so that's like barely any time. So I'm making this. Don't scold me, because I am scolding myself. The bodice. Okay, let's talk bodice things. The last time I saw you, I had just finished the rough bodice vibe. I did the shape and then I did all of the hand draping. This is where we are at now. I decided that I must keep the top and the bottom ruffle. Unfortunately, I had already sewn the skirt onto the bottom ruffle, so it wasn't existent, but I decided that I feel like it's integral to add this sort of balance between the top and the bottom. So I unpicked the skirt, I basted all of the pleats, on, together, in place, and then I got to work finishing the top and the bottom edges in the most invisible way possible. Because I didn't know I was going to do this look, the order of construction was not efficient, but I will break down what I did because it worked. It just took me a long time. What I was initially going to do was just fold over my ruffle to the wrong side and then do a bias tape here. And that would have been, 2 lovely little steps. But to keep this edge raw, but also clean on the inside, I had to redo my basting stitches to hold all of the pleats in place. I did them about an inch below the bottom of the bodice. Then, here, where this bias tape is, I actually folded over the raw edge of the bodice by about 0.5 centimeters, and then I tacked that down by hand. Very slow work. Then, once that was folded over one time, I was able to go back in and hand stitch my bias tape to the top and the bottom of this bodice here, covering the raw edge. And I repeated that for the bottom edge as well. This means that I have a clean finish on the top and the bottom of the bodice. The ruffles are still out and there's no stitching visible from the front because I did all of my stitching to the interlining layer. Interlining is such a slay. Interlining. Hit a slay. Okay, I also did something completely unnecessary, but I just felt like I wanted to, and I hand stitched all of these seams on the inside down to the interlining. I used a very small whip stitch and I stitched them down so that they would stay completely open and lay as flat as possible, but also to reduce any sort of fraying on those raw edges. Probably if I had more time, I would make a lining layer so that you wouldn't be able to see all of the stitching and everything would be nice and clean, but it's not necessary for my wedding dress, which I will be wearing one time, and I don't really have time, so that was what I decided to do. Notably, the most timely task I've been working on recently has been hand stitching all of these pleats and hand draping pieces down using sequins and thread. You might be able to see here I've got a lot of sequins. I've tried to keep the larger sequins in the bottom portion of the bodice, and then they sort of trail up to these smaller sequins that don't necessarily look much like anything visually, but they do provide a beautiful glimmer. And most importantly, all of these sequins are doing a fantastic job at making sure that the draping stays nice and flat, because if it sort of puffs out, it creates excess volume and it doesn't accentuate the fit that I worked really hard to achieve. So yeah, what's kind of stressing me out at the moment is that I would really like to construct the dress. I don't like that it's all sitting in separate parts right now. But I'm also aware that all of this sequin work is just so much easier to do if it's not attached. So I don't know, I kind of feel like maybe today or tomorrow I just want to make the whole dress and put it together. And if that makes my sequin work harder, so be it. At least I have something that I can wear. Because the amount of sequins on this is great. I want more, but also if I had to wear this today, it would be fine. So I think it actually is just time to construct the dress so I can have peace of mind knowing that I have something complete, and then I can just work on embellishing it over the next 2 weeks, as opposed to embellishing it and then constructing it the last minute, you know what I mean? Anyway, that's the bodice. I've got more though. I've got more. Okay, the next element that I'm working on today is the veil cape situation. A lot of you guys voted for the cape, and I did think that I wanted the cape, but I trialed it. Here, I just think it looked weird. Something about it was just looking weird. It could have just been my work, my handicraft, but I think I want it coming down from my hair. I trialed that last night, and though it might be a little weird, perhaps a little traditional, I just really like the feeling of the fabric on my shoulders. I don't know, I kind of like it. Anyway, I didn't know how to make the shape of a veil. I just thought maybe I would do gathered tiers, but then I realized I own this beautiful dress form that comes with, shock horror, a magnetic head. And I was like, wow, that actually might be perfect for draping my concept. So what I've done this morning was basically place a little piece of fabric over her head, and I've been playing around with different ways that I can do little pleats, little gathers to, you know, achieve a vibe. But this is sort of what I'm thinking. Little flower clips on the side. These are flowers that my fiance Elijah designed for me and sewed for me, so I love them. I wear them all the time, and I would wear a white version of these and pin the veil using the flower clips. It would traverse down like this, and then as it goes down, it would be my intention to incorporate a patchwork textile like this, put together with French seams, and on all of the seams there will be sequins. That's my intention. This is freaking me out because I just don't understand it, and so I would really like to get it done today. So that's what I'm going to work on first. But before I get into work today, let me introduce the sponsor of today's video, which is Skillshare. I love making things, and being a creative person is such a big joy in my life, so I'm always trying to stoke that creative fire and learn more about being an artist and a human. So recently I've been taking a class on Skillshare all about creativity. If you didn't know, Skillshare is the largest online learning community with thousands of engaging classes led by industry professionals across lots of genres like film, illustration, graphic design, creativity, and so much more. I'm always taking sewing and fashion design classes on Skillshare, and there are also a lot of really fun crafting classes, but sometimes I just need to be working more on my inner artist. So recently I've been taking this awesome class by an artist named Andy J. Pizza called Find Your Style, 5 Exercises to Unlock Your Creative Identity. Andy is such an inspiring and engaging speaker, and he brings some really cool insights to the table, as well as some thought-provoking exercises that can help you discover more about your creative genius, and also just what informs your style as an artist. I really enjoyed taking this class, and I'll definitely be back to take the rest of Andy's classes soon. And if you would be interested in taking this class or exploring some of the other amazing classes available on Skillshare, then I've got a great deal for you. The first 500 people to click the link in my description of this video will receive 1 month free of Skillshare. So jump on it, click the link if you're interested. I really hope you enjoy Skillshare as much as I do. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. I've looked at a few different versions of this style of veil on Pinterest, and I don't really know what's going on, so we're just gonna play with it. I think my plan of attack here is just to do some draping, and then I'm just gonna hand stitch the details that I'm enjoying and call it a day. Okay, I think I like that more. I don't mean to brag, guys, but one of my secret skills, which you don't know about me, I'm really good at making up songs. Me and Elijah, we wrote a whole 3 or 4 verse song about the Hunger Games to the tune of the Mockingjay Whistle. Do you want to hear it? There once was a girl named Jennifer Law. She won the Hunger Games like ha ha ha. I have a message for President Snow with my big fat arrow and my big fat bow. Bow, 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 boom. There once was a boy named Peter Mellark, painted his face so he could hide in the park. Wait, hide in the bark. Got it. Reaped with his bay and that broke his heart. Is it real or not real, you big fat lie? Boom, boom, boom. There's more verses. Oh, I should look at the movies to see what Finnick's wife wears. She wears one of these Juliet veil cape things, I think. It looks so pretty on her. Guys, I did this sort of weird, sort of ugly, sort of pretty draping on the back of the veil. And I was just hand stitching it like this. And then I was like, wait a second. Let's think with our brains here. So much better. Well, I actually just took those little pleats out because they were really weird. I don't know how I feel. I don't know what my hair will be, but I'm just trying to like get it out of the way so that it doesn't add all this extra boof to it or whatever. I like it from the front. I just feel like maybe it's a bit odd from the back for me. It's gonna be so much longer. And like maybe I just need to add all the length so I can get the context. But right now I'm like, I don't know. Bit weird, bit random. And then if I have my hair back, it adds so much boof to it. I'm feeling a little bit Sound of Music. Maybe I just work on my textile for a bit and I don't worry too much about the top part because I can always chop it off, and as long as I've got a really big piece of veil fabric, I can repurpose it. I think that's actually a really good idea. Oh, I just had a little break and I think I was maybe doing the wrong style. I do like the idea of having some sort of fabric draping up over my head, but it will be more weighty because I'm using more heavier fabrics than tulle, so it's ideal if it can clip into my dress in some fashion. I forgot about this look from Funny Face, where Audrey Hepburn has a cape and then a hood, and this might be a really good middle ground. I think I'm just going to switch my brain off for a bit though and just build up this patchwork textile, and then I can make decisions. Yes, it's never really over. I just had to stop making my veil because I was making it and I was like, this is hideous. I have to see if it adds or subtracts, because usually if I put something up to the dress I can sort of see if it's matching or not, and I just don't think it is matching. I can barely move because nothing is really on my body right now. It's just all sort of tucked into weird areas. But this is the dress and it's so fairy, it's so romantic, it's sparkly. I love it. Like, I love it. This, what I'm working on, is so, it's like a grid. It's like grid, it's white, it's somewhat harsh, I think. And I thought that the sequins along the seams would really soften it and make it sort of like a big romantic spiderweb, and I think I could just envision it in my mind, but I just don't think that this is actually what I had envisioned. So I think I'm just gonna stop. I'm gonna do the dress, and the veil can be the very last thing I think of. Because in my head I was like, I need to get this textile done so I can embellish it with sequins, but the textile isn't working. So yeah, I think, I'm not even sure if you guys can like really get a good picture right now, but you know, like just you know, I just think it's sort of like covering up what is really beautiful about my dress. I think potentially what is more harmonious is just like tulle, just like regular tulle, like a cream tulle. You can see through it, and I suppose if I really want to, I can always embellish this. I just have to let go of my patchwork idea another day. Well, after that, I think I'm just going to try and construct my dress. Even though I have more embellishing to do, I know I'm just going to feel better if it's together. So that's what's going to happen. Also, I think I might have the rattiest hair of my whole life today. So please don't judge. Why do you ride like you're running out of time? Eliza! Rise up, Eliza! You wake up at the break of day and you rise up, Eliza! Eliza! How lucky we are to be alive right now. How lucky we are to be alive right now. History is happening. It's happened to be. Greatest city in the world. Jellican. Eliza. Baby. Skylar's is down. Oh my goodness. Eliza. Just adding one round of tulle on the inside of the skirt has added quite some volume. I can definitely feel the difference, so I might not need as much tulle as I anticipated. I think this is all I'm going to add to this layer though, because I don't want it to be too puffy at the waist join point. I think it would be ideal for the corselet to have a small piece of tulle that goes down, and then I can have the tulle go out from there, so it's not all coming from the waist. Does that make sense? Anyway, I think I'm gonna like pin this to my bodice. I'm not sure if you guys can see, but what I've done is I've pinned my skirt with the overlay and the tulle together right along the bias tape finish on the bottom of my bodice. And what I'm going to do is just hand stitch this to the bias tape, and then it will be attached. And it shouldn't be visible from the right side, so it will maintain this nice effect where the bodice sort of spills over the skirt. I didn't realize my hair was as crazy as it was, guys. Someone should have told me. That's better. I'm going to hand stitch this, and who knows what the next step is after that. Put a zip in? Yeah, I think so. I'm really nervous for that. That'll be the first time that I've actually seen the fit of the bodice, but better now than later. Better now than later. Good morning, friends. It's the next day. I hand basted the skirt into the bodice with a very rowdy looking little stitch. Don't look too closely, but it should be fine. It's a very light skirt, so I don't think there's going to be any structural problems there. And because I stitched it to the inside where the interlining is, I still was able to maintain this sweet ruffle on the outside. Perfect. The next thing I need to do is fit the invisible zip in. I think this might take a little bit of play. I have a feeling like the bodice fits really good at the top, and then as it goes down, becomes a little less fitted. So I might just need to sort of adjust my seam there. I think I'm going to baste it in by hand and try it on and just repeat until I'm happy. It's so funny because I was thinking to myself, it's very vulnerable sharing the whole process of designing and creating this dress, because at no point have I had any idea what I was doing, and that's been scary. Time to do this. I'm also wearing my corselet today under my t-shirt just to get a little bit comfortable. I'm feeling so nervous, like it's not going to be strong enough. Like, it's just such a lightweight material. If it's your first time tuning in, I used a cotton bobinette to make it, and it's just so incredibly light. And it has a little bit of stretch. I'm just nervous it's just gonna be not enough. But then I just have to remind myself that this is what a lot of gowns were historically made with, as it's in a structure. And also, a tulle corset is quite common now. I'm just gonna try and trust the process. My words, trust the process. My face, inherently not trusting the process. Where should my needle just go? Tale as old as time. Something really critical to having a successful invisible zip installation is ironing the zip. When it comes, it will be fine, but if you can press your iron all the way into where the zipper teeth are, you'll probably find that you can get a few mils closer to the zipper, and that's going to make the difference between the zip being quite neat and the zip being actually truly invisible. My first invisible zipper installation, I was like, what did I do wrong? Like, I used the right foot, I started as close as possible, but really, you just have to press it. Like here you can see this is what it looks like ordinarily, and if I can press my iron right in there, it sort of just forces the teeth to sit as far back as possible. Highly recommend. Okay, this is my first go at the zip in. I think it's sort of fine from the front. I think there might just be the slightest amount of puckering going on right about here at the back. It's not so problematic because I have all of this draping and sequins and stuff, but maybe I just need to bring it in the tiniest bit, just at the lower portion here. And I think if I'm still getting any puckering, I can add in some boning, which might just give it a little bit more tension. It's actually really nerve-wracking because this fabric is so delicate, and I've also done all the sequin work and I just don't want to ruin anything. It's okay, I will try this zip again. The new zipper location is in. I think it's an improvement. I still think it maybe can come in just like a little bit more. I don't know if that's the problem though, which is definitely a little bit of a concern because it is kind of fitting good. Maybe I should try boning first? Not exactly sure. It's not a huge problem. I'm just brainstorming how I can make it slightly less puckered. Leave it with me. I just spent a little while adding more sequins to the bodice. I've just been trying to go through and make sure that everything is evenly tacked, and there are some places that are a little bit flimsier than others, so just trying to get it as even as possible. This has taken me a long time. It's not even particularly visually strong when I show it to you like this, but the whole bodice is basically completely covered in sequins, so yeah. Anyway, you guys know how there was that little bit of pulling at the back of the bodice? What I'm doing is I'm adding some boning channels. I think I'll add 2 just here at the back, and potentially I will bone the rest of the bodice. Maybe it's not the worst idea, but again, the interlining comes in to save me because I have something to sew my boning channels to by hand so that it doesn't come through visibly on the front. Having the interlining is just so wonderful because it means that I can adjust and sort of do some work on the inside of the garment at any point of the construction, and yeah, it won't be visible right side out. So that's good. It's given me some wiggle room, that's for sure. I'm only slightly worried about the color of the boning showing through, but I don't really think I should think too much about it. It'll be fine. So now I'm just gonna hand stitch all of those channels in. I would really like for there to be no more issues ever again. Hey friends, sorry for the time jump. I also am apologetic for how poorly this video is filmed. I am just floating in the stratosphere right now. I don't really know what I filmed, if I've even documented what I'm doing right now, but hopefully something is making sense. Anyway, what I did yesterday totally solved my problem of the pulling in the back of the bodice. I added 2 boning cases, hand stitched into the interlining on the back piece, and then I added 1 bone to either side of the bust. What I learned is that that tension was so important for adding structure to my bodice. I thought that the structure of the corselet would be enough, but what the problem actually was that my corselet was sitting about 1 inch lower than my bodice. And because of that, the bodice actually just wanted to go down to where the corselet was because that is actually the structured element. And because that was sort of drooping down, it was creating a lower waist, which was giving me that sort of tension pulling look at the back. So when I added the extra structure of the 4 bonings in the back of the bodice, it helped the bodice to stand up, to retain its shape, and just to give it a little more oomph. It's probably not perfect, but I do think that actually helped the problem a significant amount, so I'm so glad I did it. And then once I added the bones in the back, I was like, should I just add bones in the front too, now that I've seen what it can do? And so I just had to do it because I was so curious. And I feel like the more bones I added, the more it just sort of like looked a bit more snatched. And so yeah, I am going to leave it there with 6 bones added into this bodice. So interesting, because I've got this boned corset. It's going to sit on top of this, but I feel like it really needed it, so I'm glad I did that. Currently, I'm next level procrastinating because I think I've just spent so much time on this project that getting to the final steps feels weird and daunting. I'm not exactly sure why, but I just feel alarmed by finishing the dress, but I actually should and can because it's just about done. My next step is that I need to add the lining and whatever sort of petticoat I choose to do, I need to add it to this corselet. I have this vaguely cream ivory fabric. I don't remember what fabric this was. I kind of just was looking for the right feel. I wanted something slightly more drapey than cotton. I was hoping for something lighter than this. It's a little heavy, but it will do. I was also really interested in trying to find a color that matched this skirt. It may be appearing to be quite ivory on camera, but in real life, it totally has this sort of pinky, creamy undertone to it. It's very much what I would consider like a vintage ivory to be. It's not champagne, it's not pink, it's not cream, it's just really not white. Because I've put white up to it and it's like, oh, that is so very wrong. So yeah, I've had a little bit of an experiment of what the lining should be in order to bring out the right undertones, and this is as good as I can find at this stage with my budget with my time. So yeah, I can't decide whether this needs to be like some sort of half circle skirt or whether it should just be like a gathered rectangle, but I will explore and I will keep you up to date. I think my least favorite part of working on this dress is having to try it on so many times. I know that sounds fun, but it's just like a lot of effort to get into the undergarment and then the dress just for like a simple adjustment or something. Oh, you can see the difference that adding the bones has made. It's just a little bit more structured and snatched. There's less wrinkling and the back is fitting better than before. Again, perhaps not perfect, but better than before. Anyway, what my plan of attack here is marking out with my marker where the bodice stops and where you can start to see the corset, and that is where I'm going to be adding my lining onto my corselet. I don't want to just add a rectangle just here because I don't want to have any excess bulk if I don't need it. So ideally it will just sit really nicely about 1 inch above the line of this bodice. That's my plan. Who knows if it will work. Again, there would be a better way to do this than what I'm doing, but I just didn't have a plan of attack going into the project, so the order of the steps and the quality of my problem solving is not perfect. It's nowhere near perfect. I've decided to go for a hodgepodge approach. What's new? Okay, I guess I just need more of that shape. I wonder how equal that actually is. Oh dang, very even. Oh my gosh. Can you guys see how good I just eyeballed that? That is quite literally perfect. Oh, okay. It's actually so hard for me to get a camera angle where you can see like the bottom portion of something, but that's the vibe. Lots of fabric at the bottom, really chill at the top. Yeah! I did an extremely hodgepodge job of sewing this lining layer to the corselet just by stitching in between all of the boning channels. It is a raw edge. I don't know if I'm going to cover it. It's sort of fine. The corselet can hold this weight of the skirt, but it is a little heavy. I'm just hoping that everything stays on and stays together for the wedding. That's my main concern at this stage. In terms of the back closure, I've just got a French seam going all the way up. Then it stops about 6 inches below the corselet. And what I intend on doing is just putting a few hook and eye closures down here, and that will keep the lining in place, but still I'll be able to get in and out of the corselet. So yeah. Unfortunately, when I tried everything on last night to make sure that it was working, the zipper broke, which is very sad because I had hand stitched a binding to the sides of the zipper and it looked really pretty. But it gives me another chance to try and make my zipper even more even than before and really line up these seams. So whatever. I say at least it broke now and not on my wedding day, because I would rather have a zip that zips if possible. I don't know if I updated you guys on the veil situation, but this is it. The patchwork veil with sequins down the seam lines idea didn't work. I tried a small sample of it and I put it next to my dress and it just wasn't flowing. It kind of felt like they sat in different worlds and the veil was sort of competing with my dress for attention, so I scrapped it. I conceptualized a cape. I also didn't really like it. I also looked at maybe like a hood situation, like an Audrey Hepburn vibe, but everything that I was doing just felt a little bit too much. Kind of a weird feeling because I thought I would be going for a big dramatic moment, but the dress is sort of like its own thing and I just can't figure out the veil. Anyway, I thought about making little flowers just like these, but in white satin and popping them in my hair, and that's still an option, but the other option is just some tulle bows like this. This is a prototype, but I purchased these little millinery combs and my idea would be to make a nice smaller bow out of tulle like this, stitch it to the combs, and then have some larger, wider tails that drape along the floor. So these are fairly short and it's just to get a vibe, but That would be like my veil idea. I still feel like it could be too much, so watch this space. Also, I forgot to mention that because I took the zipper out, it actually does give me an opportunity to add a few more layers of tulle to this skirt section, which is kind of a blessing in disguise. I really like the look of it with one layer of tulle, but I just feel like having 2 more maybe will just give me a little bit more depth of color, just to sort of soften it, warm it up, give it a bit more body. I don't care about the volume, I just care about the color and the look of having more tulle in between the outer layer and the lining. Do you know what I mean? It's getting really specific, but I'm glad that I had the chance to do this. Even though I just want to sleep and I never want to work on this dress again. Well, actually I realized just now that I don't want all of the tulle in the zipper. So I think I'm just going to do the zipper now, and then I'm going to hand stitch the next few layers of tulle into the bodice, and I'm just going to keep like a 6-inch gap where the zip is. I'll just keep a little gap between the tulle there and then attach it for the rest of the seam. Does that make sense? I don't think the gap will be visible at all because it will be sort of like a few layers underneath, and that way it doesn't look like all of the tulle is sort of one layer at the zipper point. I would like there to be a little bit of depth, so yeah. Holding her hand just the way you stand, you got me wrapped around your finger. Do you have don't have to be afraid to put your dream in action. In good news, I do think that my bodice alignment with that zipper is much better with this installment, so I will take it. I just pinned those 2 layers of tulle to the inside of the bodice and I tried it on, and I'm really happy with the look. It's not too puffy around the waist, which is what I was concerned about, and I just feel like it adds a nice amount of fluffiness to the skirt and a little bit more opaqueness before you see the lining, which is just what I wanted. A little bit more tulle light fluffiness before the lining. Anyway, I'm going to hand sew this to the bodice just like the top layers, and that will mean that I have the overlay and 3 layers of tulle now attached to the bodice and 1 layer of lining to the corselet. And that brings us to the end of the video. I feel like this video was a hot mess. I don't even know what I did and I don't know how I filmed it, so I apologize if it is crazy, but hey, thanks for hanging out with me. I really appreciate your company, and the dress is almost done. So that is crazy. I have just over a week to get this done, and in that time I just have to hem it, tack the bodice to the corselet, bias bind the zipper, add more sequins, and hand stitch the tulle to the bodice. So we're kind of good. It's all just slow stitching I can do in front of the TV, so we're good. Oh, except the hem, but that'll be fine. This will be the last video I post before I get married, so stay tuned for the grand reveal. After the wedding and the honeymoon, I will sit down with you guys and debrief the whole process, show you the finished dress, and maybe some clips from the wedding day, and we can just chat and unpack this whole project. I'm so looking forward to showing you the finished dress. Even though I'm pretty nervous about the wedding day, and I'm also really nervous about the dress staying together and on my body, I am really excited to wear it. It feels like my dream has come to life, and I'm just like proud, I think. Proud and excited. It's a weird feeling. I literally couldn't have done this without you guys. I had so many questions and you always came through with the best answers, so thank you so much for taking the time to both watch and leave me constructive help. I literally needed it so bad, so thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And also, if you were just watching or leaving kind comments, it also meant the world, so thanks for being here. I hope you guys stick around for more of my regular sewing content because I have heaps of exciting projects planned for after the wedding. I'm actually really excited to do something that isn't a wedding dress, so yeah, stick around. And if you have any questions about how I made this dress, the wedding process, construction elements, leave it in the comment section and I will answer it in the debrief video. Yeah, you guys are the best. I'm sending so much love. I look forward to hanging out with you in the next video. Have a wonderful day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.